Welcome to our video recap of Twin Peaks The Return. We'll be talking about episode 10, Laura is the One. Before we discuss that, I am William, and with me is...
Sean.
And if you've been following our video series, we've been talking about all the episodes of Twin Peaks The Return, starting with the first episode, going all the way through. And we started, there's really no way to know what to expect from the show. And as we've seen time and time again, you get things you weren't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 10, Laura's the One, is a little bit more straightforward. Episode 9 and 10 have been pretty straightforward. But the show has continually screwed around with stuff and, you know, giving you, like, once you started to think you got into a little bit of a routine with, like, like episodes like 5, 6, and 7, then episode 8 gives you the birth of Bob from the atomic bomb and Laura Palmer's spirit and all these different things. So episode 9 was more of a straightforward episode, and this one was more kind of a table-setting episode as well, where it just kind of shifted things in place for some of the bigger stories. And
it felt like just kind of an extension of episode 8.
Yeah.
I mean, the original series just felt like every episode was kind of somewhat the same, you know, except for when you got away from David Lynch directing. But, like,
yeah,
this one very much is like these two episodes, but I liked this one better than episode
9,
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this one had... So this episode, you had Richard Horne going and trying to clean up the mess he made by, in his cocaine or whatever drug it was, fueled tirade where he hit the kid, and the woman who left the diner saw him and knew him. So he went to give her a visit at her trailer, and, you know, he asked her what she had done. She said she told the cops. They didn't believe her, but she had sent a letter to Sheriff Truman, or to the sheriff's office or department. And he's like, well, when did you send it? And she says a day. And then he storms the trailer and attacks her. And leaves her seemingly for dead with the stove on and a candle lit. But we don't see the trailer explode. And we do see that she does look to be breathing and alive. So,
And like you mentioned, he busted out that door window.
Yeah. When he busted the window open the door to get in, that could leave enough space for the gas to get out and not explode. I don't know exactly how that works. But not seeing it happen, like TV and movies and all that stuff, unless you see it happen on screen, you have to assume it didn't happen. Or it could just be sparing us for the effects costs. And
I thought maybe we were going to, later in the episode even, we were going to
go back.
They were going to have a call and like, oh, a trailer exploded. You know, we at least have heard.
Yeah,
but
that's
the fact that we haven't heard anything yet, like...
With like later in the station.
Yeah, is a little, you know, again, it just leaves it open, I think.
Yeah, so you have that aspect of, you know, Richard Horne, and then later in the episode he goes and attacks and victimizes his grandmother. We see that Johnny is not dead.
Mm-hmm.
He just has like his jaw wired shut and he's strapped and tied down to a table so that he can't get up and hurt himself. And when Richard goes and attacks his grandmother looking for money and takes money out of the safe and out of her purse and physically assaults her, he does refer to like her as his grandmother.
Yeah.
Which clues you in that he is likely the son of Audrey Horne, unless Johnny knocks somebody up.
Mm-hmm.
But
he didn't say dad, so...
Yeah, you would think there'd be a little bit more of an interaction there. And Johnny has like the creepiest teddy bear ever.
Yeah.
That has like the head that keeps saying the same thing over and over throughout the entire scene, which makes it just more disturbing.
Somebody pointed out that I guess it was a similar design to something in Domeland, which was a web series that Lynch did. Yeah, that was like a really... That felt like a almost aside from kind of how like terrifying and like nasty he is, which we got some of that in the original Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
But that felt kind of like an original Twin Peaks scene, and that you just get to see like how evil somebody is. Really, both those scenes.
What kind of melodramatic scenes?
Yes, and just that could be from a soap opera. Yeah. Only the way Lynch handles it, it is like way more disturbing than what you would have in a soap opera.
And let stuff play out like much longer than a soap opera would, and lets the characters kind of live in the moment and things like that. So you got that. So this was an episode whereby, you know, like once he said, you know, referred to Miss Horne as like his grandmother, it's like, oh, so are we going to see Audrey this episode? No, not yet. But it's clued you in that it seems pretty likely that Richard is the offspring of Audrey from when she was in the coma and Evil Coop when he visited her in the intensive care ward. So...
And then she called... and then the grandma called what's his
Ben.
name? Ben Horne.
Yeah.
And was arguing about, you owe me $3,000.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And then she mentioned something about, getting the lawyers, but he's also still wearing a wedding ring.
Yeah.
So it's like, he has passed on Ashley Judd before. At first I thought, oh, is he married to somebody else?
Yeah.
But that's whose name he called at the end of that, right?
I believe so.
After he got off the phone. My thought was maybe he was, the reason he was staying away is possibly because divorce proceedings, maybe. If
or wanting to save things.
If they haven't been finalized, because then that can be used against him. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know what the situation is there, but...
Or maybe he still thinks he's in a Civil War reenactment, and it's, who knows? I mean, like, he does seem to be pretty level-headed. And there's also, like, the scene where Jerry's in the woods, and he's yelling about, I forgot exactly what he said, but, like, he was out in the woods rambling. So then we get to see in a scene with Janie-E and Dougie at the doctor, and, like, there's a lot said about the violence against women in this Twin Peaks: The Return, about, like, how prevalent it's been. I mean, because there was violence against women in the original series, too, because the entire show kicked off by the death of Laura Palmer. But then you also like Maddie and other things like that. I mean, men have been killed, too, but they're usually killed pretty quickly or off-screen. It's not the more brutal things that have happened to the women, which, is that a meta-commentary from David Lynch about something like that to begin with? Or is it just a more old-fashioned form of storytelling?
Yeah, I almost
it's
feel
hard
like
to kind of parse out.
I was thinking about that a little bit today. Not like specifics of this episode, but really kind of the era he grew up in.
Yeah.
And kind of even just like the roles of men and women,
yeah.
What they were in his era of growing up, but also to the movies that he was influenced by. And he always like pulls those influences from cinema into his films. And a lot of classic cinema, the women were always the victim. Or, they were kind of used as a device, and sometimes the story was told with the men. So I was kind of thinking about like the way he handles that stuff as well. Not that there's a right way or wrong way. Obviously, people are more sensitive to it now. Yeah, people are more sensitive to it now. But I do think it's definitely probably something that he may not consciously be thinking about as far as like the way it is portrayed. I almost feel like he takes it from like a gut instinct or just like you said, like just kind of his tradition of storytelling almost, because it is more sympathetic. You know what I mean? You're always, maybe because he's a man, I'm not saying always, but men.
Not all men.
But as a man, when something happens to a woman on screen, I'm more sympathetic. Just like when something happens to a kid, I'm traditionally more sympathetic to a kid than a woman. It's just like that level of sympathy. It's an easy draw, I think.
Well, it's something that, like, I've seen people, like, comment on it. Like, until you know the entire scope of the story and you see what the takeaways are at the end, it's kind of hard to judge stuff when it's, like, in progress. And will they eventually have scenes of brutality against men that are equal to the women, the scene that, like, violence against women? Who knows? But, I don't think it's it's obviously not, like, an inherently misogynist thing. It's more of just, like, a storytelling method.
Yeah.
And until you've seen the scope of what the story is, you really can't judge an individual piece of it. Because this is playing out like a long story, not, television where it's not, serialized, where there's not self-contained arcs in these episodes. They're all just pieces of a story.
And it's not, like, gratuitous, really. Like, even, he does it to get the effect he wants to get out of you. But he doesn't take it further than he needs to. Like even the trailer scene in the beginning. That's terrifying when he runs towards the trailer. Yeah. But we don't see the violence.
Because that was an incredibly effective scene.
Yeah,
you see his reflection in the window and he runs towards the door.
And that's all he had to do. And you had the wide shot outside and you heard what was going on.
Yeah.
And then with the grandma, but thankfully he just like threw her down. It's like that alone is an awful thing to do to your own grandma or anybody old, anybody at all. Yeah. But like again, it just heightens it a little bit more.
Well, and two, you had like where Richard calls Chad, one of the deputies of the sheriff's office, and asks him to take care of the letter that was mailed. So we see that later. But so like I said, when you have with Janie-E and Dougie at the doctor. And she's taking him there because, his behavior and the fact that his hair is shorter and he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. And when they're at the doctor's office, it seems like she kind of notices for the first time that he's in good shape because Dougie, Cooper, or just, real life Kyle MacLachlan is in, like, really good shape for his age. Mm-hmm. And and she's kind of like just getting like aroused while watching that, and then like the doctor says like his blood pressure's perfect and like everything's good, so they're kind of looking,
that's the real Cooper there, because he is like the Boy Scout, everything about his physique.
Because what's funny is they're looking at him, and since all these physical attributes are perfect, then they're overlooking like what's obviously going on with his mental state. Now, like before, like his boss had said that he was in a car accident and things like that, and he only existed on paper from 97 on. So what he was like in his day-to-day life before all that stuff happened, who knows? But
I mean, if that would have been a woman too, you could almost look at the commentary of like, oh, they're only concerned with their looks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can always flip that stuff around.
Then there's the
too.
slightly troubling aspect of, so later, Janie-E and Dougie have floppy arm sex, where Dougie's arms are kind of flopping around, and he does like smile.
He's obviously enjoying it.
She's enjoying it a lot because they're like waking up the kid. But then there's the question of, could he really consent in that mental state to sex? Even if he enjoys it, he's operating at the mental capacity of like a slow child.
Yeah.
So like,
but at least they
played the way it was played. It's okay. This is one of those examples. If it was the reverse as a female character, granted, there's a lot of movies and TV shows where they have a female character that has the intellect of a child that is like a sexual object. So this is kind of doing that in the reverse. Yeah. So like maybe it is like a meta commentary on this stuff.
Thankfully, they're married and have been married. So in her mind, she thinks it's the same person.
Mind, it's her husband just in better shape.
He's smiling, so she's thinking,
So you have that aspect. So you have that, and then you see like other stuff. Duncan Todd, who is in Vegas, is going to work with Anthony Sinclair, who works with Dougie, and who Dougie had found some irregularities on the insurance forms from him. So I guess the forms would have been the ones that were dealing with the casino that they're discussing now.
Yeah, the $30 million arson, because that's what they were. It was about an arson.
So it was something that Anthony Sinclair tried to work with them to kind of do something specific, or he had
he had sold him the policy.
He had sold the policy, and he wasn't doing everything properly. And then when Dougie reviewed all the case files, then that's what he found and brought it to his boss's attention.
Chutes and ladders on him.
Yeah, and then he brought it to the attention of his boss, who then looked into it. So the plan that Duncan has is for Anthony to go to the Mitchum brothers, who are with Jim Belushi and his brother that own the casino, and who already are onto Dougie. They didn't know Dougie was his actual name. They just were onto him because he won all the money, because he was Mr. Jackpots and won all the money at their casino. So Duncan decides, since in the prior episode, Evil Coop called him and asked him if it was done yet, and he said no. And then Ike the Spike got caught. So he decides that he's going to pit the Mitchum brothers against Dougie to do it for him. So free, and put somebody else at risk for getting caught. Which he sends Anthony over there. And then the Mitchum brothers, there's a funny scene where Candy, one of the women who's blonde, wearing like the pink dresses that we saw previously, sees or hears a fly and is so single-mindedly obsessed with it, she tries to smack it with the TV remote and smacks one of the Mitchum brothers in the face, and like leaves like a bloody spot. Twin Peaks scene. Felt very Twin Peaks. It felt very irreverent and just like nonsensical, and she was so upset from that point forward. She could basically not interact. And I saw different people saying online, like maybe she was expecting a violent reaction because that's the norm. So she was prepping herself for that, and then when it didn't come, she was still in that mode. So there's that, or maybe there's something wrong with her, or like all these different things.
Some people said they think that they may have been fabricated, but I don't know if I really think.
Because some people are saying that she looked a lot like Janie-E, so maybe she's like a fake Janie-E, which I don't necessarily buy that because there's really nothing in the text of the show to show that. Yeah. But
she kind of looks like the woman in the Radiator from Eraserhead too, a little bit. That styling
of the
hair and dress.
So what exactly is happening with her, we don't know. But we do know is that now you have, after Duncan and Anthony put the Mitchums on the case of Dougie, so they're going to be sending someone after him. And they were on his trail anyway after they saw him because they saw the news report where Ike the Spike got caught. And then they saw that he was trying to take out Dougie. And they're like, oh, his name actually is Dougie Jones. So that put him on the radar again. And then they get this other information about him screwing them out of these claims. So then that gives them double the, ammunition they need to decide to try to have him, taken out. So you have them sending someone after Dougie in the near future. then you also theoretically, so in the prior episode when Evil Coop sent Hutch to kill the warden, he also said he had 2 more people for him to kill, but he didn't say who. So it could be Dougie too. So you could have the Mitchum brothers sending somebody from like the casino gangland type area to kill him. You could have Mitchum, like the Tim Roth character, coming after him. So there's a lot of stuff that could converge. But so you have that set up.
I've heard some people theorize that maybe the assassination attempt, they'll inadvertently kill Janie-E, and then that would snap Cooper out of it, you know? But I don't know about that, but I do not want to see her die. I know that. Like, they've built her up enough to where...
Well, she's like a driving force in the narrative right now.
Yeah, and she's a great female character.
And I want to see her play off other people now.
Yes, yeah. I want to see her with Albert and Diane, you know?
Yes.
Like, her and Diane, I really hope they have a scene together. Just because, like, you know what I mean?
Diane just dropping, like, the F-bomb, and Janie's like, I'm not going to stand for that language. Like, I could see that. Let's see. And then, like I said, so when Richard Horne called Chad, who worked at the sheriff's office, and asked him to take care of the letter that was coming that had been written to explain that he was the one that killed the little boy. So you see Chad go and tell Lucy he's going to get the mail. And she's, you see her being goofy and like a very comedic character and talking about, not being able to keep track of time while she's wearing a watch and other stuff. But then when he goes outside to get the mail, she pays attention. Mm-hmm. So she knew something was up and that he was acting suspicious. So hopefully she'll be able to get him caught and get, Sheriff Truman and Bobby and Hawk on his trail to then see the letter or the other evidence. And we, like I said, don't know if Richard actually blew that trailer up.
Yeah.
She could, that could have not blown up and then his victim survived.
And she said, I wrote a letter. Yeah. And then Lucy says, oh, he went to get the mail that day. It was supposed to come. Like, that could come back around that way for sure.
Yeah, so there's corroborating evidence there.
And to the mail delivery man, what do they call him? I've already forgot.
Mailman?
Yeah, the mailman.
the postman
delivery person. He also, they deliberately hung on him when he was kind of, it was almost like he suspected Chad.
Just the weirdness
of
somebody
he
that
kind of
never
felt
took
that
the
something
mail.
was off with that as well. So you could think they could cooperate with Lucy, like, hey, something was weird going on that day.
Yeah.
And then if she happens to wake up. And so, not to jump to the end, but we also, too, like, at the end of this episode, we think that's the end of day 1. So, do we have another full episode? If the next episode is another full day, is it going to be an episode after that to where they go to the place?
To the October 1st
or is it the next day? They said 2 days from now. Yeah. So, it would be the next full 24 hours, right?
Yeah, because they said there's 2 days, and we didn't really get a clear picture of, from the last episode ending, did an entire day pass, or is this part of the same day? I think it's a different day. Mm-hmm. So I think there's like one more episode, and then the next one will start the dates of when they're trying to go to this location at the Jackrabbit's Palace. Then we also see at the Fat Trout trailer park, Carl Rod, the Harry Dean Stanton character's playing guitar, and then Steve and Becky, who we saw in prior episodes. Becky's the Amanda Seyfried character, who we presume is Shelley's daughter, or at least related to her in some way.
Yeah, I almost feel like there's been like an interview, or for some reason I thought there was some supplementary kind of confirmation of that wasn't in the show. Yeah. I don't remember what it was exactly, though, but it seems like that is definitely the case. So definitely that relationship is mirroring her and Leo's. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of domestic abuse type things in Twin Peaks, and then, So you have that situation. You really get any further story development. You just saw him being abused.
And I saw some people, when he first appeared, I don't know if it was the first appeared, but I think it was whenever he sent her into the diner to get more money and stuff. Yeah. Some people were kind of defending, like, oh, you're just calling him a dirtbag just because of the way he looks and because he does drugs and stuff. And so, like, it was kind of satisfying to let, this episode is like, okay, it confirmed what they were trying to hint at. Like, it's weird that he had defenders. I get if you're kind of trying to keep an open mind, but that was
because he was also in Get Out as like the brother.
Yeah.
So I mean,
he's a slimy looking dude. Like if you want to have a slimy looking guy, guy.
And I'm sure in real life he can look perfectly normal. The characters he plays.
That's what I'm saying. Like his appearance
very
on camera,
specific, going for a very specific thing, like kind of unhinged, kind of stringy dudes.
Definitely look like dudes we went to high school with.
The dudes at high school that had like a rat tail that would like hit a girl in the back of the head with a chair or something. But yeah, so you see
David Lynch.
Yeah. So not making light of the domestic abuse situation.
We never saw that happen in school. We're not making fun of an actual incident.
Actually, when I was in middle school,
okay, I said we didn't go to middle school together, so
but like so you see that domestic abuse situation. So you see Becky and Steve again. Didn't really further their story anymore, but we saw them again just to be like a reminder of, hey, they're out here and this is their relationship. It's terrible. And it's mirroring a lot of original Twin Peaks stuff.
And it wasn't just a flash, because some people thought, oh, are we ever going to see them again? Or is this just kind of like a little, just a taste of it? But I really wonder where that's going to go now. Because originally it felt like, oh, this is going to be the new Laura. And you know what I mean? And something's going to happen with this.
There's not enough time left.
Yeah, and there's not going to be build up for that in the same way. Not that there really has to be build up, because we've seen that story before, you know?
Yeah, but I think if you just have that story just kind of exist, no real resolution.
So it's, at this point, it feels like it's all heading towards people discovering where Cooper's at. Yeah. Cooper coming back, and them entering the lodge.
Well, and two, with Steven having some like drug usage, that could tie into the stuff with Richard Horne and Red, and the stuff at the Roadhouse we saw with like the Sky Ferreira character who had like the big rash and stuff. So all the drug stuff could tie back into the larger narrative if Richard is really the son of Evil Cooper, and all these different things could converge back towards the Cooper storyline.
Yeah, I just. Having Shelley have a kid, I want to have some more Shelley time to, have more sympathy for her, because I love her character.
James in a brief glimpse in like one of the first few episodes, or maybe the first episode.
Poor James.
So, and then
He's been left out in the cold.
So that Bobby and all of them are going to come back in an episode, or they're going to have a big role to play. But, as of right now, then we also got to see Dr. Jacoby again giving his radio show, and Nadine is a big fan, and her store that's like a drape runner store that was
silent drape runners.
Yeah, it's like run silent, run drapes.
Yeah.
And
she has the golden shovel that is being revealed each time.
Yeah. So you have that kind of another non sequitur type thing, and then you see with Gordon and Albert that they tracked the cell phone of Diane, and they saw the message she had gotten in the prior episode about around the dinner table conversation is lively. If I'm paraphrasing that incorrect.
And then she responded with another one as well.
Yeah, so they know that she's having correspondence with whoever this is, which we know is Evil Cooper, or Doppel Cooper, whatever you want to call him.
Well, they pinged a tower in Mexico.
Well, so the message originated with Evil Cooper and got to Diane. Yeah. So there's some form of communication going on between the two of them.
And so, is that Philip Jeffries? Is he moving north? Him? Is he making his way back up to North America for some reason?
Yeah.
We talked about that picture too. Like, is he that millionaire? Was he down there making his millions, or time traveling using, the Biff Tanner almanac guide to make some fortune, make that box to find Cooper? Or is he working against Evil Cooper in some double cross thing?
So then there's the picture, like you said, there's the picture that we saw of Evil Cooper at the glass, or outside the glass box in New York, talking to someone.
Somebody mentioned that, he was bald, but somebody mentioned possibly a monk in one of the recap articles.
Yeah.
But, maybe they just said that because he's bald in the connection with Tibet and all that with Cooper. But yeah, it's cool that we're finally getting back to that. Was that episode 1? It's hard to remember because it was all. I think it might have been.
Let's see. So somebody commented too on one of our prior videos on YouTube. It was Frank Dorigo commented. It's very likely the Philip that Ray calls in part 8 was indeed Philip Jeffries, because if you recall, he'd referenced getting a call from Jeffries when talking to Daria in part 2, the phone call that Mr. C was recording that Cooper was listening to. So it sounds very likely. I mean, narratively it makes sense, and we thought all along it was Philip Jeffries, but like maybe Philip Jeffries is the millionaire that's funding all the research, and him and Evil Cooper in cahoots, and the glass box is to see if good Cooper was coming back, where they would know to kick their plane into gear, or what else came through the lodges, because I think the implication is that like the lodges are connected to different portals, which is how there's like the North and South Dakota stuff with William Hastings and things like that. So there's like different portals that you can access the lodges from.
Yeah.
And they have a lookout on. They had like the glass box to see if they came through there.
And does Jeffries have a doppelganger? We also know that Albert was working with Jeffries kind of under the radar, not seemingly with ill intent. It seemed like he was just operating.
FBI agent.
Yeah. So is this an evil, not Albert, but evil Jeffries? Or is Jeffries turned or something?
Because when Jeffries went and experienced the lodge spirits, he did not have the ring on, the green lodge ring. So theoretically, he could be, possessed or inhabited by one of the spirits from one of the lodges, or from when he went and saw the different things. So he could be compromised and could be evil, could be good, could be a double agent because he seemingly had been in contact with Ray and with Evil Cooper. So what all is going on? We don't know exactly how Philip Jeffries fits into this. And with David Bowie passing, it's not really known if he shot any scenes for the show. And if he did, it's been kept under complete wraps. And then if not, maybe they recast it or be like over the phone only type thing.
At this point, he's such an important character.
You would think they would have to show something.
Yeah. Like I want to see that character back just because we only saw a flash of him in Firewalk with Me.
Yeah, very
and it
small
was
piece.
so like provocative. You know what I mean? It was just like, wait, what? It opened up like another rift of the Twin Peaks story, I think.
Yeah.
Just that scene and kind of some possibilities. And because he's had such a large role in this, I really want to have like a satisfying conclusion to that.
Yeah.
Not that there doesn't have to be. I just don't want it to feel like they avoided showing him just because he had passed away. You know what I mean? I'd rather just have them recast it because he feels so vital to it.
Yeah. Then in addition to having like the information like that, with like Gordon and Albert, and then also Gordon and Tammy saw Albert on his date with the coroner from prior episodes.
Yeah, or the
autopsy doctor. Yeah. Which was kind of like a cute moment, like across a little bit of levity across all the darkness. And then you have another conversation between Margaret, the log lady, and Hawk.
Well, did we already pass up to whenever Cooper opened the door to what's the agent's name? The female agent? Already forgot. Preston. He saw the flash of Laura.
When Gordon Cole.
Yeah, Gordon Cole.
He saw the flash of Laura because it kind of ties into like. So he saw the flash of Laura, and then when Hawk spoke to Margaret, the log lady, she told him, "Hawk, electricity is humming. You hear it in the mountains and rivers. You see it dance among the seas and stars and glowing around the moon. But in these days, the glow is dying. What will be in the darkness that remains? The Truman brothers are both true men. They are your brothers. And the others, the good ones who have been with you. Now the circle is almost complete. Watch and listen to the dream of time and space. It all comes out now, flowing like a river. That which is and is not. Hawk, Laura is the one." So Gordon's vision of Laura and the speech that Hawk got from Margaret the Log Lady, both referencing Laura and playing what we saw in episode 8 of the giant and the woman sending back the glowing orb of Laura, indicates that she has importance and that something with her is going to be the key to all of this. And it almost kind of reinforces
it. Almost said like without her, there's darkness.
Yeah.
And then the people that have been with them is probably Andy and Bobby.
Yeah, because they like the Truman brothers are Truman.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I don't think we'll see, Harry Truman just because Michael Ontkeen kind of retired from acting. But, so it sounds like the Trumans will be involved. And then, of course, like Hawk and Bobby and others and like Andy that are good men. And, like the fact that it sounds like there's the darkness, that's almost like the light from Laura's orb is being extinguished by the darkness that's Bob and all the spirits. So they need to, I guess, restore balance or, to solve what's going on.
And the Gordon Cole, was he getting a sense of something, some pain from the lodge, or was it Laura kind of almost being, inflicted pain or something also in the lodge? Like, is that her kind of spirit being crushed a little bit or something, like what?
Yeah.
And he was startled by it, but he wasn't he didn't look like Laura's mom when she would see Bob or anything like that. Like he
wasn't hysterical.
Yeah, he seems kind of aware of what things are going on, maybe more than he says.
Well, in the Secret History of Twin Peaks, it's implied that Gordon Cole was assisting the archivist as putting together like this dossier and like the history of Twin Peaks and like stuff that had to do with like Project Blue Book and like the investigation of, like extraterrestrials or unidentified flying objects, stuff like that. So it seems like Gordon was a friend to or assisted those who were kind of looking into the more mysterious aspects that would be around Twin Peaks. So it's, you know, kind of implied by that he may know more than he's letting on. And two, it's been pointed out like that he uses his speech impediment, or not his speech impediment, his hearing impairment is kind of like a method of control. Because there's a conversation with him and Albert in a prior episode when Albert's like, you know exactly what I said, you heard. And then he did because he just goes along with it. So I think he uses... Well,
and also, too, I noticed whenever he was looking at Albert on his date, he was just whispering to Tammy. Yeah, and like they were talking at a very low tone.
So I think he uses the hearing impairment as a way to get people all, you know, thrown off a little bit and kind of get them to not be on the top of their game because they're, you know, like talking louder to give into what they think he needs. He uses that, I think, as like kind of a method of control.
Somebody said also, does he use it to listen to frequencies from like... other, you know what I mean?
Dimensions?
Because it's like sometimes even when he was... So who came into his room again? Was that Albert or was that Tammy? That was Albert, and then Tammy knocked on the door. So I think he saw that vision of Laura when Albert came in.
Yeah.
But he had it cranked up when Albert was in there. You know what I mean? And so you would think if Albert knew that, like, why would he turn it up then if it was a control thing? And also too the picture we passed up that he drew, which looked like a almost alligator or a short deer type creature with antlers, spots, and then almost like a hand with a watch. Maybe, you know, you have to be there at a certain time, or it's Andy's hand. Who knows?
So there's a lot of stuff swirling around, but the fact that like Gordon is more in tune with that type of stuff and saw something, and it coincides with the log lady Margaret telling Hawk something, tells you there, you know, it's all, you know, it's not just coincidence that Laura is a vision of Laura was seen by Gordon when Hawk's being told that she's the key and that, you know, she's the one. So all that stuff is pointing to Laura having some importance. Now, is that something to do with her case? Is the importance that will point them in the right direction, or is it more of a literal, like her being in the lodge getting out has something to do with it?
I think it's a literal thing, and
that they need to get her out of the lodge or interact with her.
Yeah, she's like kind of maybe she's the key to saving.
Because like
Cooper.
In the lodge, is it really her? Is it her doppelganger? Or, you know, there's a lot of stuff too. Because like in some of the stuff in the lodge, Laura had said that, or the one arm or the arm told Cooper that she look exactly like Laura Palmer. She's my cousin. So are there multiple versions of Laura Palmer? Like, so there's all these things about that. That if it's like a literal thing of them bringing Laura out or interacting with her, or her having some importance to the return of Cooper, like it's all unclear. I mean, and two, like the stuff in episode 8 didn't really hint at this grand destiny for Cooper. It was more of Laura.
Yeah.
So is it Cooper's just a tool to bring balance to something or to be a part of something, and, you know, just kind of a bystander, or, you know, is there more of a preordained destiny type element for him? Being as David Lynch, I don't know that we'll get that level of detail, but we got way more backstory than I thought we would get. So far, I mean, we pretty much saw the birth of Bob, or at least his entrance into the world of men.
The thing that Log Lady recited too. Also, it was a surprise to see her again, and awesome. Yeah, like I thought that was so awesome.
You didn't know how many scenes they shot because she passed away from cancer before they finished filming.
Yeah, we kind of assumed. I mean, I kind of assumed that what we saw earlier in the series was it. And somebody even mentioned, you know, like Hawk kind of just sits there for a minute, and it's like, oh, is that their way of saying goodbye to her and stuff? So it was incredible and very awesome, and a huge surprise to me personally to see her pop up again.
Yeah.
And then also at the end of it, she says something about it like all flowing now. So for me, I was like, oh, does this mean the series is going to kick into high gear and like the floodgates are going to be open? And a lot of things are really, a lot of wheels are going to start turning. You could see that if, you know, you mentioned that you told me before the original plan for season 3 back in the
like
90s
rumors of what the original plan
was what Briggs going through the lodge and looking for Cooper.
Yeah, like the original theoretical plan. This is all like unconfirmed stuff. I just saw people say like after the show ended, like different writers have said that the plan would have been to like Major Briggs going into the lodge, or Major Briggs working with like Sheriff Truman and everybody to try to bring the real Cooper back. Would have been like a narrative arc if they had continued. I mean, it would have been a much more straightforward not narc. There are narcotics in the show, but the arc would have been, I think, if it was made to season 3, would have been far more straightforward than whenever it got here, because it was in the early 90s and continued the style of show that had been going on.
But like that kind of made me lead to think that, okay, they're totally cool with really going down that path and exploring that. So you could see that whenever they go to the spot that was on that message from Briggs, that they can maybe spend a few episodes or the rest of it exploring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There could be, and Lynch could get very weird and do whatever he wants. He could have still a split of stories in this reality and then the lodge or wherever they're gonna possibly go.
Yeah.
And then you could really kind of, again, I'm not saying the show's getting dull on any level, but a really another jolt and like left turn of
taking
what we're expecting. Yes.
Because we episode 10, so there's 8 episodes left. Still haven't seen Audrey. We haven't seen the real Cooper yet. We've seen the Dougie Cooper and the evil Cooper. So like, at what point does the show really get into gear, and does it go like each episode is a day, and we have one more episode, then we get the stuff with them going into like possibly into the lodge with like Bobby and Truman and Hawk, or do we get a story? Did they make these does it take 2 days, like, or the next day or whatever takes 3 episodes, and then all the stuff happens in the last 2 episodes or something?
Yeah.
And the fact that it seems they've indicated more now that they would be open to a third or another season, a 4th season, or a return, Twin Peaks Return season 2, if you want to separate it from the original show. Whatever it is, like the idea of another season has been floated as something that they're not completely against. And then there is that book coming out in October from Mark Frost that will be, I think, set after the show. So, and
it's called The Final Dossier.
Yeah. So what
that sounds like has some finality, but it is just the final dossier. It doesn't mean that there can't be more.
Well, is it the final dossier in a specific case or a specific or like
Twin Peaks, the final one on Twin Peaks, maybe?
So there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, I would hope that the next episode is a day, and then after that you start getting into stuff with the lodges or whatever's going to be at this location, and things kick into high gear, and you start seeing more of the stories converge and characters interacting. Now, if that actually happens, who knows? Like, will we see Evil Coop and Ray interact with, Truman and Hawk and Bobby, and will we somehow get, Dougie Cooper from Vegas to Twin Peaks? Will Nadine's Drape Runners be a smashing success and sell well? Like, Well, I think, too, that the drug stuff with Richard Horne and Red, I think all of that's going to have to tie into the other narrative, too. Maybe that's where Andy's more on that story, while Truman and Hawk and Bobby are more on the watch thing.
Yeah. Is there any way for... There's no reason for, right now, for Gordon Cole and his crew to end up in Twin Peaks relatively soon, is there?
In terms of the case they're following... So they, were in the Dakotas and dealt with Bill Hastings, and then they got that information. Now, I think that if anything, the fingerprints of Cooper showing up in Vegas would take them to Cooper in Vegas, and then that could take them they could take Cooper from Vegas to Twin Peaks because Gordon had the vision about Laura. So so like all that stuff could. The only way I see Cooper getting back to Twin Peaks is somebody taking him. Or something causing him to snap out of his, haze and be Cooper again.
Or somehow, through some electrical socket or something, enter the lodge and then come out of the lodge in Twin Peaks. Or, just something.
Well, too, like when Margaret told Hawk about the electricity is humming, like, it is, because there's been a lot
of activity.
It's been a lot more prominent of a thing than the original series about the electricity. And there's been a lot more activity going on than there was in the original run of the show. So it'd be interesting to see, like, what all converges and what characters, like, will Philip Jeffries show up? Will we see stuff at the New York glass box again? Will we see, when will Audrey show up and what is her role?
What if she's dressed up like Philip Jeffries? Just like, what's her name was dressed up like the Asian person in the original series.
Yeah, Catherine Martell.
Yeah.
When she showed up in one of the more unfortunate storylines in the original Twin Peaks, when she was dressed as an Asian man.
Yeah.
And that really doesn't stand up in high definition. But there's all these storylines.
At this point, like,
I don't want Janie-E to die.
No, I don't. I don't care if I love Audrey. Loved her in the original series. We haven't been invested in her at all yet. So I'm not really invested in seeing her again for any other reason than fan service. Yeah. It sounds like if they bring her in, it'll be for a logical reason. Yeah. But it almost feels like that, not Bobby, James, it almost feels like that was his thing. Like, here's your little fan servicey thing of James.
Yeah, here's James Hurley. And
we're going to get him out of the way so you don't worry about him anymore.
Well, yeah, and then, too, the Renault that's at the Roadhouse, you have to think he's going to be tied into the drug stuff. Yeah. And then, like, the prostitution stuff. So, like, all these stories, I think, will have to... I think the drugs will have to converge with Richard Horne killing the kid. I think all that will converge with law enforcement. And then I do think that Red could possibly have a connection to the lodges because he was able to do that kind of magic trick type thing. Yes, yeah. So I think that stuff will tie in. Who exactly is addressing it is unknown because Chad's crooked, is a crooked deputy or cop or whatever. So if anything, he could be trying to cover things up. But I think Lucy is on the trail to get him discovered. Mm-hmm. And then I think it'll all kind of unravel from there. And then how Cooper gets back to Twin Peaks, who knows?
Maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he doesn't get to Twin Peaks. Maybe he goes to North Dakota or South Dakota or whatever and goes wherever Bill Hastings was. Or, maybe evil Coop getting killed or stopped by someone else then lets him be set free and fully returned to himself. I mean, who knows at this point how exactly they're going to handle that.
The Return.
Could the return just be Cooper's return and it's like the last scene? He's like, damn good coffee. And then smiles, looks at the camera and gives like a thumbs up. Or, thumbs up. And then Gordon's like, that's it. And then it cuts to black. And then you hear Diane over the credits like, F you. But, so now, but the fact that Diane has been communicating with Evil Cooper or an associate of his or somehow, it makes you wonder, so, like, the meeting that she described at the prison, like, what was that meeting actually about?
I think that was legit. I think
that
I think whatever communication she's got going on
is unwilling on her, or not undesired.
She may have thought that she's been communicating with the real Cooper, somebody through the real Cooper or something. Yeah. And she may have suddenly for the first time realized that something is off. And maybe she was so horrified because she has been working and now she maybe feels trapped. Maybe she's like, oh God, I've been maybe helping out this person who is not Cooper or whoever he's associated with. And what have I done? So that could be very interesting. I really love Diane. I really love Janie-E. Like, I want to see more of them. I don't want them to go away or die or anything like that. Like, Gordon Cole, don't want him to die. Like, I hope,
Cooper gets brought back and he's fully aware of himself and gets all the stuff straightened out legally. And then he's like, you know what? And he's like, Janie-E's cool. We'll stay married.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
And they just live happily ever after.
The next season is just like a Blue Velvet, but it doesn't go dark. It's just them living together. I wonder what they would do with the next season. Part of me, like, we have this now and they've been able to explore. They won't do this. But part of me I would love it if they just had like a 10 episode, like, season and it was just like classic Twin Peaks with all the characters and just tons of fan service. Granted, I don't want them to waste all that time and their energy. There's only so much time left in the world for everybody, but that would be also a really fun watch to take a whole different shift
and then
from
make
this.
It be like even more of the campy soap opera stuff, or like there's a fish in the percolator. So more stuff like that. So we've got 8 episodes left. This is more of a straightforward narrative that's making this, is pushing the stories all incrementally forward, but this is more of like a place setting episode, which you get in these serialized shows where it's multiple episodes that are telling one story versus self-contained episodes. So storytelling, the type of storytelling we gotten used to.
Yeah, and we don't really need a movie now. Like, you know what I mean? We don't need the movie like we got last time. I kind of want one for some weird reason, but, you know, being on Showtime, having this hour long, like, you know, TV shows have changed a lot more since then. Not that we need one at all, but I would almost like to see what they would do with those restraints again. Because now they have 18 hours and they are really taking their time, which I'm loving. And it's like explore the format. But if they had like 2 hours, that would be super, super interesting to see how they would kind of maybe bend things again. And really kind of have a more focused, but probably pretty open story. I would love to see that. And also, Criterion, they just announced that they're doing a Firewalk with Me with the missing pieces in October as well. I don't know what all is going to be different. They're doing a 4K restoration. What's going to be different from the complete mystery, the complete mystery, box set. But hey, you know,
more Twin Peaks.
It's another look at that film, which I love.
So I think that'll wrap up our discussion of episode 10, Laura is the One. So keep an eye out because we have videos for each new episode coming up. And you can check out all the prior episode videos if you haven't already. So
and leave us some comments with any theories. Or we didn't really have a lot of theories on this. It was more just discussion because it did feel straightforward.
Didn't leave as much to theorize about as some of the other episodes. It's more of just kind of confirming or denying or just, you know, going further towards validating or invalidating.
And I feel like we're getting a lot of information, so there's not really a lot of reason to dig for stuff now. And that's kind of like...
You're getting stuff doled out at a very deliberate pace.
Yeah, and I've liked that mix because I think the best of film and TVs are something that really forces you to be involved. You know what I mean? And we've had a lot that has forced us to be involved in this series. And now we're getting some episodes where we can sit back for a couple scenes and just take in the scene. So can't wait for next week.
Yep. So that'll end this discussion. So see you next time.